gotta just ask, what inspired you to write this incredible? To call it journalism, I feel like is even a little bit of an insult because there was so much passion behind it. I mean, I've never read anything like it. So,
Thank you. That
first,
means a lot.
welcome, and talk to me a little bit about it and how you got there.
Thank you. Well, that means a lot, and I do appreciate you inviting me on. I'm so glad to talk about this because can't think of anything more important at the moment. But yeah, my wife has been a public school teacher for 22, 23 years. So I've lived it, like you, day in and day out. I've seen what teachers do, the extra work that they put in, the never-ending hours, and I I started watching some board meetings here in Howard County. I've
Oy.
been involved, over the years in different things like redistricting and just different things like that. But watching how the system was flip-flopping on the reopening issue and subsequently seeing how all of the blame was falling on the teachers, reading things people were posting online, it just, this has been building up for years and years and years. And I was just trying to find a way to an outlet. How do I not only express myself, what I'm feeling, but how do I support the teachers? And when Howard County announced the Howard County Education Association announced the work to rule, I was like, this is it. This is the moment. And I thought I'd post a little something in support, and like a snowball, I just started writing, and it wound up being the longest post I've ever written. So, and like you said, from the perspective of the spouse of a public school teacher.
Yeah, and I think I think it's important. I don't think until you live with a teacher, if you're not a teacher, if you're a teacher,
Hmm.
if you're a teacher, you know what it is you do, you know what type of effort it is. It's not 9 to 3 or 8 to 2:30 or 7:30 to 2, whatever the hours are. It doesn't matter if it's elementary school, middle school, high school. It is a job that is basically 24/7 during the school year. And no matter,
If I may, another
go for
great
it,
way
Corey.
that I explain teaching, which I think is a way I understand it well, is imagine if you had to, at whatever your job is, give a 5 to 6 hour presentation to a group of about 20 to 30, however old the students are, who may or may not be paying attention and interrupting constantly every day for 10 months
Yep.
or 180 days. So Monday, this weekend I'd be prepping for my Monday 5 hour presentation. I would need PowerPoint slides, a script, know where I'm going to questions and all that stuff. I do my presentation, come home Monday, and I'm like, I got to do another one tomorrow. So I come home, I start prepping for another 5 hour it just never ends. And
Never ending, right?
the teachers, they want to do a good job.
Yep.
So, coming home and just trying to turn it off, it's not in their nature. And I think that's where writing what I wrote, the article or whatever you call it, really made me realize that, because over the years I've tried to get my wife to pull back and, can you just, try to work the hours you're paid or whatever. And I finally realized that it's not her.
Yep.
That's how teachers are wired.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to do a good job.
Yep.
It's the system that really has allowed this to get to a breaking point. And that was a big realization.
Let me ask you this, because for me, this experience over the last year at this point that
Mhm.
we've been in this, virtual learning environment, I always knew how hard teachers worked
Right.
because I always saw the part of it after school. And well, we all grew up going to school, right?
Mhm.
So we know what's involved, but I don't think I fully even got it until a year ago at this time, where teachers across the country transitioned to teaching from a classroom
Mhm.
and had to learn on the fly how
Right.
to teach virtually.
Yep.
Go and tell any teacher that they've been on vacation for a year. How
Right.
insulting and how ridiculous.
That is the things that I've read and heard, that's one of the ones that drives me crazy. It's, teachers need to get back to teaching, and we need to, get them back to educating our kids, and that whole get them back argument, that is what pushes me over the edge. And as I mentioned before we started, I'm actually sitting, I thought it'd be fitting, but I'm sitting where my wife has been teaching for the past, I don't know, however many months, past year, basically. So this is, I'm in our basement. We've converted it to a classroom. We've got a whiteboard, and there's a bookshelf and all kinds of charts and everything. She comes down here every day, I don't know, 7 something. And she's down here till 9-10 o'clock at night. She's had, like, as you said, the shift to online learning, they had no notice.
Yep.
So she has had to learn, and I think that's the big difference too, that it's one of the only professions in the pandemic that had a complete shift in how they do their job.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in an office, so yeah, I'm working remotely, but I'm using my computer. It's email, it's phone calls, and a lot more Zoom. But the way that teachers delivered the material is completely changed. Mm-hmm. And so now, instead of what we used to call dittos or handouts, now it's Pear Decks and PowerPoints and Google Slides and
Schoology and
and then you pile on top of that my wife, who's very animated, and she's elementary school. She's great at what she does, but she is doing this all day. But the vast majority of the 30 little boxes on her screen are blank.
Right.
So, I mean, just to think about that every single day, all day long, doing this to a blank screen, there's no way to, fully capture how difficult that is. And so, I initially try to give people the benefit of the doubt. So when I see these comments, I just think they are completely uninformed.
Yep.
They just don't know. Like you said, why don't you come on and substitute for my wife one day?
One day.
What it's like.
Let's see how you do.
And by the way, for your 10 to 12 hours that you work, I'm going to pay you for 7.
Right. Right. And, oh, by the way, for the additional technology that you might need, we'll give you the laptop, but you need to go get A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Yeah,
I'm sure probably just like you, when this hit, whatever it was, March 12th or 13th about last year.
Yep.
Within about a week, I had purchased a new computer monitor, multiple extension cords, a whiteboard from Amazon. I mean, we were just scrambling to try to, and that was all for the students.
Yeah.
Really ultimately to benefit the students.
Yep.
So.
And you know how hard it was to get a computer monitor at that point too?
Exactly.
Holy smoke.
Yep. And, all of that was done by the teachers.
Yep.
And, it infuriates me to hear, I watched a recent board meeting here in Howard County, and they were talking about the more than $10 million that they've invested in resources for teachers to return. And I'm flabbergasted.
They just won't tell you what the $10 million was actually spent on.
Right. And I've joined a few teacher support Facebook groups, and there's thousands of people in these groups. And I see what teachers are posting, and they don't have what they need.
But here's the thing that gets lost in all this. Do you want to know who wants schools to reopen more than anybody? Our teachers. This notion that teachers are happy to be working at home and like it is crazy.
It's crazy.
And if you truly feel that way, you don't know teachers.
Right. Yep. You nailed it.
You don't know a teacher, because you know what teachers love? Their students. They love being with their students.
Right.
They do this for their students.
Yeah.
They do this job for their students. It's fabulously written. I mean, I would say to a degree, it's a piece of artwork, and it was what needed to be said. And it needs to be, that story needs to keep getting told. And there's a lot of stories that need to get told, but this story on teachers, and there's a piece here, which if you don't mind, I want to just read for a second, a couple of
Please.
lines that you wrote. Hey, while I have your attention, are you not yet on board with teachers, or are you not yet on board with the teachers are underpaid adage? Here's why it's more than just a talking point. In Howard County, the starting salary for a teacher is $48,519, and the highest salary attainable after earning a master's degree, a doctorate, and 25 years of service is $104,874. So if a teacher works under these extreme expectations for 25 years and earns a master's and a doctorate, the best they can do under their contract is increase their salary at a meager rate of $2,254 per year. And then you pointed out arguably less than the annual increase in cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
That is a travesty. And then you included the salary scale for Howard County public school teachers, and Baltimore County, it's not far off.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, and then let's talk a little bit about the work to rule concept and what that's about. But share with me a little bit about the salary piece that you shared, and then how it equates to work to rule.
Yeah, the salary, I mean, travesty was the best word I could think of. Seeing what I've seen over the past, 2 decades. But there's 2 issues I have when it comes to the salary. The first is how low it is.
Mm-hmm.
And the second is that it's chiseled in stone.
Yep.
So, I know in many industries, coming out of a 4-year undergraduate degree, with that debt and then you add in the expectations of a brand new teacher. If you were, given a salary of 48,000, first of all, you probably can't even afford to live in Howard County on that salary, which is amazing. So you're going to teach here and you probably can't afford to live here. And no matter what you do or how hard you work or how great of a teacher you are only eligible for the chiseled in stone increase that's in that the link that I provided, which is publicly available.
Yep.
And so that it's so frustrating to know that you're just taking these little tiny incremental steps. And even if, like I said, if you do everything you possibly could do, you are capped out at 104,000. And not to poo-poo that number, but given that that's after 25 years, a master's and a doctorate, it's just mind-boggling that's where you hit the ceiling. And so it's way too low, especially in a county as wealthy as Howard County. And there's no flexibility. There should be some kind of performance incentive. They can't get bonuses. You can't get overtime. There's nothing a teacher could do. And so, as we mentioned, they're doing it out of their commitment to the students.
Yep.
And we should compensate them for it. To me, it's amazing that teachers will still go above and beyond.
Always.
I mean, no matter what you pay them, they're going to do what's best for the students. But I really think we've hit a point where teachers deserve to get paid for the hours they put in. I know you asked me about this. So in Howard County, I believe their contract pays them for 7.5 hours a day. And then they get a 30-minute duty-free lunch, which is supposed to be a 30-minute break.
Yep.
Typically what I hear from my wife is maybe she will scarf down a granola bar or something quickly, an apple maybe. But there's no such thing as a duty-free break. She's working from the second she walks in to the second she leaves. And the 7.5 hours they're paid for, I would say is laughable. I mean, I can't think of another word, but you want to pay them the rate that you're paying them. My argument in what I wrote was pay them the same amount, but but pay them for 10 hours instead of the 7.5. I don't know any teacher that works 7.5 hours. That's, you couldn't do the job. It's
Right.
impossible.
People. So to say that it's not right of teachers to be asking for a detailed plan is ridiculous. Then to say, well, teachers are hurting students if they're going to do a work to rule. I'm going to ask anybody this: how many people on a day in and day out basis, and in the case of your wife, in the case of my wife, and in the case for a lot of teachers that I know, for 20 and 25 years are going to consistently day in and day out do anywhere from an extra 3 to 7 hours per day for no additional compensation? I want to know every other line of work where there is that.
Yep. And that was one of the things I mentioned was I don't think there's another profession, at least in America, that demands, literally demands and requires so much volunteer work. And anybody that makes that argument, related to work to rule, that you're going to hurt the students and, when are they going to return to normal and, get back to their regular hours? What you're essentially asking the teachers to do is to volunteer their own time, which they've been doing. And they're finally saying, if this is the level of planning that the county is going to do for us when it comes to our health and our safety, then it's not fair that we are being asked to volunteer that many hours. And that's why I fully support it. And
isn't that ironic that the teachers were already back in their buildings mandated and the Board of Ed is sitting on Zoom?
Right. Yep. And they, no masks. And here, and another thing I'll add with Zoom is the argument of the impact on work to rule to students, why that fails immediately is my wife has been here sitting right where I'm sitting for a year, teaching just like this. You can hear me pretty clearly. You can see everything. Starting Monday, she will now have 2 masks on her face. And I don't have a mask here, but so her voice will be muffled.
Yep.
You will not be able to see her smile.
Right.
She will also be trying to deal with the in-person students that she has in her room along with the virtual. So this concurrent teaching. And so if you truly cared about, the impact on the students, this is actually going to, I think, be worse. I think students are going to struggle to hear the teachers. They're going to lose that connection because you can't see them. Teachers they're now having to, focus in 2 different areas with concurrent teaching. So just a lot of the arguments I see just immediately fall flat. Students, and when you think about kindergartners, these little kids, are so vulnerable, and teachers are trying to teach them. They're showing them what their mask is going to look like. And when you see me on screen starting Monday, this is what I'm going to look like. And by the way, in Howard County, I don't know if you knew this fun little tidbit, they are also changing the schedule. So this whole let's do what's best for the students, they've pretty much been on the same schedule all school year. They're used to it. They're in a routine. They're in the groove.
And Monday's March 1st, by the way.
Yeah, and it's March 1st. And you know what some kids don't do well at is changing routines. So you want to talk about hurting our most vulnerable. My son, who's in high school, virtual learning, it's all been starting at 9 a.m. So you know how it is for high schoolers. You roll out of bed at 8:50 and, you're
that
there.
Early?
Well, starting Monday, high school starts at 7:45.
Ouch.
And once they return, his bus is showing up at 7 a.m.
Ouch.
So he'll adjust and he'll be fine. But, to do that mid-quarter, right in the middle of it's such an abrupt change. And we've been bombarded with emails from the county. Don't forget, it's a completely new schedule, for everybody. Everyone's schedule is changing, elementary, middle, and high school. and I feel so bad for the teachers and the students who finally were in a groove, and like they had sort of gotten into a routine, and it's just all being thrown into the air now.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question, and then we'll start to wrap up. So, if you could have an open mic to anyone in the county, the state government, the media, what's your message to them?
Really good question. My message would be that work to rule should just be work. The fact that work to rule is some big protest that's really controversial really sort of boggles the mind, because they're just working to their contract. And so, my message to leadership in the county and to the state would be, if you want to continue to pile these expectations onto teachers, modify their contract and pay them for it. And teachers will do it. If you want them to work 12-hour days, they will. Just pay them for it. Yep. And so, I've been telling a lot of teachers that I know, I wish work to rule was just work. Just regular work. Right. I'm paid for 7.5 hours. That's what I'll work. It's just so unfortunate that we've gotten to this point, and it's the system. I blame the public education system.
Yeah, and it's gotten out of control over the years. Which has led to this point, and you see other things. This isn't limited to Maryland. This is not limited to Howard County. It's not limited to Baltimore County. There are challenges and concerns all across the country. And the one thing that I implore everybody is number one, take a deep breath and take a step back, because everyone has been through what we've all been through for the last year.
Yep.
And it's been hard. It's been challenging for everybody. But we've got to get out of this finger pointing mentality, and why all of a sudden the target has been painted and placed on teachers, and the accusations and the flat out lies of teachers need to get back to work, or right, they've been on vacation, couldn't be further from the truth. I'm looking at your wife's classroom right now, and it is a classroom. If you didn't tell me it was your basement, I would have actually believed you if you said, I'm actually in her school building, because that is a classroom. I know what my wife's classroom in our house looks like. And I also know I don't go anywhere near it, because I'm like a bull in a china shop, and I'll break something or damage something because that's my klutzy nature.
Right.
So I just stay out of there. But it is a classroom, and teacher, and there are a lot for everything that's out there about kids who are struggling, and we're not going to take anything away from that. And we do have to solve for that. There are a lot of kids thriving.
There are
plenty, lots of kids learning and having success.
There are.
And we'll continue to have success one way or the other. And we want to get everyone back into school, but we want everyone to be safe. We want a plan. And from work, because I like that work, it shouldn't be work to rule. It should be work.
Yeah.
Needs to be done safely, but needs to be done equitably. And people need to be compensated for the work that they are doing. No one's asking for back pay. No one's saying, let's go back. I mean, it would be nice, but
sure.
It's not going to happen. But why is it a problem that while teachers are getting vilified for everything, they're saying, well, wait a second, here's what we do. Here's what we're supposed to do. So we're going to go do what we're supposed to do.
Right. And they get called lazy and
on vacation.
Right. Yep. And you put yourself, ultimately, the argument is put yourself in their shoes, and whatever your job is, whether it's even if you're a stay-at-home parent, I mean, whatever you do, imagine if you were asked to do it, constantly asked to do it much better and for longer hours.
Yep.
If you have a job and you're paid for what you do, and your boss came to you and said, look, I know you're working an 8-hour shift. we need you from now on to work 10 hours every day. And by the way, when you get home, we also need you to do a whole bunch of work in preparation. And we need you to do that every day. But unfortunately, we can't pay you for it.
Correct.
You would quit immediately.
Yep.
And so this is just, for some reason, this is the profession that just never gets the respect and the pay that they deserve. Mm-hmm. It's been 20 some years I've been witnessing. I think in what I wrote, I said I have a front row seat.
Yes.
For 20 years. I've never had a better seat because my wife's here all day, and I have never seen her work harder because of the move to virtual. So to say that this has given teachers a break or a vacation, there are kids that are more vulnerable that she's calling to check in on.
Yep.
If a kid does not log in to the Google Meet, she's trying to reach out to the parents like, hey, is little Johnny okay? He wasn't there. Anybody that's falling behind on their work, she's following up with them, providing extra resources that she is creating from scratch. And as special as I think my wife is, they're all doing that. Mm-hmm. All the teachers are going above and beyond. And I think that the people saying otherwise are just uninformed.
Yeah. And I think you said it best. You've had a front row seat just as I have.
Yeah.
And to see it, I've been saying when people ask me, how's your wife doing? How's she handling virtual learning? My wife took the mindset of, for the time being, I can't do anything about it other than to make it the absolute best experience. Yeah. And I've watched those same behaviors, that increased level of effort that you've seen from your wife, that fire inside to help kids succeed. I mean, it's almost a privilege to be able to say I've gotten the chance to watch it, because I never would have otherwise. I never would have been able to just say, hey, I want to come sit in your classroom today while you're teaching. She'd be like, yeah, that's not happening.
Well, you're right, because I think I mentioned I've never been more proud to say my wife is a teacher.
Yep.
Couldn't be prouder. And I hear, because I'm here in our basement and I work remotely just above here.
Right.
And I hear the students, and I hear them laughing and learning and reading together. And my wife will change something on the wall, and the kids will be like, "Oh my gosh, there's a new thing on you." I mean, they're so engaged.
Yep.
And it's really inspirational to hear it.
Yep.
It's amazing.
I mean, I saw what my wife and her colleague did to make graduation special for the kids finishing up elementary school last year. They couldn't have it the way everyone else has, but I watched them plan and put something together so they would have a memory they'd never forget.
Yep.
And all of these teachers are doing that constantly for
every day
and everything.
Yep. Every day, 10, 12, 14 hours a day.
Yep. So you and I got together today because there's a lot of us out there. We are spouses of teachers, public school teachers, and there are a lot of us out there. And I think the one thing that Jeremy and I both talked about, both off air and while we're talking, is just the amount of support and notice, recognition that we can help bring to the table. So if you're out there and you know a teacher, have friends who are teachers, are married to a teacher, brother or sister, we need your help making as much noise as possible to help support teachers, help support the people who are coming to educate the future of this country, the future of this state, and help get them the recognition and the fairness and the respect that they deserve. And that's where Jeremy and I felt, and my hat again is off to you for what you wrote, what was said, and with your permission, I'll post it on the page underneath of this podcast, because I can't tell you enough. Everything that you mentioned is transferable to probably every other public school system in the country.
Yeah, you're right.
and it's critical. And my hat's off to you for identifying it, for being so eloquent, and being willing to put it out there.
Mhm.
Um, because there's probably some people who probably don't like you right now because
Probably.
you're going against their narrative, and they probably don't like me either. Well, that's okay.
That's fine.
Um, but all we can ask for is for anyone who knows teachers, married to teachers, related, help support them right now more than ever, because all they want to do is educate, and they need as much support as possible at a time where they're not getting the respect, the compensation, or the support that they truly need and deserve.
Yep. Great point. And you know what's funny? If you're not married to a teacher or you don't know one, you've probably had a teacher. I mean,
Yep.
we've all had teachers, most of us, I would assume. Go thank them.
Yep.
Like, this is overwhelming. And I think, we both felt like, what can we do,
Yep.
in our position? Even like just thanking a teacher. If you have kids, like go send your kid's teacher a little note. Just thank you for putting in this extra effort during the pandemic. We know it's been a lot of work. And even that helps. I mean,
Yep.
so like you said, maybe we don't change the world here, but if we can just provide more support, I
Yep.
think that's step one, and get people more informed and educated about the profession. I'd be happy if that was the outcome.
Yep.
Yeah, keep the conversation going.
Yep. And for all the teachers out there, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We know, and work to rule, it's not easy because it's not how teachers are wired to just stop at 3:45. And so everybody knows how difficult it is, but and I think Josh would agree. We support you.
Yep.
Keep doing what you're doing. Don't be afraid to stand up and fight for the respect and the salary that you have earned
Yep.
and deserve.
And
So
we'll be there with you. And for all the other spouses that are out there, particularly, it might be tough. We have to do our part
yeah,
to support them in this quest, in this environment, because we're going to see a side that we've never dealt with before, trying to see teachers stop.
right.
And you have our unconditional support. We're there with you. We'll be fighting with you. And for everyone out there, just have a little patience as you adjust, because it's not going to be easy, but if it's a fight teachers feel that needs to be fought, then it needs to be fought. Period. End of story.
Yep.
That's
Got
probably
it.
a good way. That's probably a good way to end. Jeremy, thank you so much for coming on. I have a feeling we'll do another one of these. And my best to your wife. My thanks to her, all of her colleagues. And again, I can't, as someone who's known you for 30 plus years and went to middle school with you, we didn't go to the same elementary school, but middle
Middle
school,
school.
high
Yep.
school, college for that
Yep.
matter. I mean,
Mhm.
we've pretty much been in the same educational environment. So proud of you for what
Thank
you
you.
wrote, for putting it out there, and really helping get this conversation jump started. So great job. And I salute you for what you wrote and for having the courage to put it out there. My hat's off to you, man.
Thank you. Thanks for giving it further voice, and props to your wife as well, and all the teachers out there. Thank you all for what you do.